This is what it means when you dream about a deceased loved one. Visit from the beyond. It is always difficult and painful to have to let go of loved ones. Although we know throughout our lives that this moment will come one day, nothing and no one can really prepare us for it. The gap that loved ones leave in our world cannot be filled by anyone else. The only thing that helps is our memory of them. As long as we think of them and talk about them often, they are not really dead. They are just living in another, better world and no longer feel pain and sorrow. Our grief over their loss eventually subsides, but we don't miss them any less because of it. Many people report that they encounter deceased loved ones in their dreams. Reason enough to take a closer look at this phenomenon. We would like to present you the most common interpretations of what it can mean when you have a dreamlike visit from the afterlife. 1. Your life is out of balance. It's amazing how our conscious and subconscious minds work. While we think of the former as being aware of everything and being the master of our senses, the latter remains an eternal mystery. We already know that dreams fall under its jurisdiction. They are the great stage for all the thoughts and feelings that we deny ourselves during the day or to which we do not want to devote time. Dream interpretation has already been intensively researched, described, and discussed since the first findings of Sigmund Freud. The fact is, we still know very little, but assume quite a lot. If you pay attention to your dreams with due sensitivity, you will soon recognize a few patterns and conspicuous features in them. They can be a raised forefinger and a warning sign, as well as a calming placebo or simply a best of our repressed wishes, fears, and hopes. If deceased persons appear to us in dreams, with whom we had a good and close relationship throughout our lives, they can represent a kind of vigil. It doesn't have to mean only grief and loss when they show up in our dream images. Just as often, our subconscious mind conjures them up to show us other construction sites in life that we should urgently work on. Perhaps our work-life balance is out of whack, or we are neglecting ourselves criminally, which is already showing effects. Possibly our body and well-being are getting a raw deal, but in some circumstances our soul or heart are too. Listen to yourself when your loved ones appear to you in a dream. They wanted only your best while you were alive, and they want that now. 2. The grief of this loss still gnaws at you. This interpretation is obvious, and is therefore the first thing that comes to mind for most people when they encounter their deceased in a dream. Mourning is a very individual process for which there is no good advice, and certainly no generally applicable instruction manual. Every person grieves differently and is allowed to take this freedom. Some want to talk about their loss all the time and get their grief off their chest. Still others withdraw completely from the world and do not want to utter a single syllable about their personal tragedy. Either way of dealing with it is fine. There is no better or worse. However, sometimes life is not only cruel in snatching away our loved ones, it often doesn't even leave us the time to grieve properly afterwards. The world keeps on turning, and the day after ours collapses, it appears as if nothing has happened. Everyday life also goes on relentlessly. Often we have far too little time to even comprehend the sudden loss, and there is no question of coming to terms with it. It is in these situations that we postpone mourning until later. This later takes too long for our subconscious, which is responsible for our emotional life, among other things. It wants to talk about it here and now and shows us this necessity in the form of corresponding dream sequences. 3. You could use a strong hand. Depending on who the deceased who left us was, we are missing a partner, a parent, a mentor, or friend in our lives. Our most important caregivers all serve multiple functions in our lives. When they die, a vacuum is created that no one can fill quickly. When we could always rely on their wise counsel or strength of will, we are suddenly like a ship without a captain and must first come to terms with the new circumstances. This feeling of disorientation and being overwhelmed then often manifests itself by our former companions appearing to us in dreams. Then their message is, "Everything will be fine," or "You can do it." Even if it is difficult, we will have to find a way to cope without their feedback and vision from now on. But it is good to still know that she is by our side in some way. 4. Another separation is bothering you. Sometimes dream images are just placeholders for others. In the case of deceased loved ones, they may represent other loved ones we have had to let go. A separation, the end of a friendship, or a temporary parting for whatever reason. Suddenly not having people with us is always a traumatic experience. Perhaps we don't want to admit to ourselves the magnitude of this loss, or are once again too busy to sufficiently appreciate and mourn this caesura in our lives. Then the subconscious mind takes over again and presents us with images in our sleep that tell a story of separation and pain, so that we can more attentively and consciously process another comparable experience. 5. A problem demands a solution. It's quite exciting how strictly our subconscious mind sometimes takes our conscious mind to task. If we put off long overdue decisions for a long time, or if we tend to persevere in suboptimal circumstances longer than absolutely necessary, it sounds the alarm. Procrastination is an evil that torments many people and not infrequently haunts them even into their sleep. Consider the appearance of your dearly departed in your dream as a friendly reminder that things don't get easier when you endlessly put them off. Depending on the relationship you had with your dream visit from the afterlife, its appearance can be interpreted as kind severity or a yellow card. We ourselves know very well that chronic postponement of decisions does not bring us any farther. But sometimes it takes a special reminder from the realm of shadows for a light to dawn on us. Death is the end of a chapter, not your story. It is comforting to know that our deceased have only left this world, but not us. We can remember them in our hearts, our conversations, and our dreams. The more often we think of them, the more present they are in our lives. Sometimes it will feel like they are actually still sitting at the table with us. Such sensations are not a haunting or a manifestation of grief. They are proof that love never stops.